managing stakeholder relations and partnerships. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jongikaya Krai. I'm the spokesperson for the Gauteng Liquor Traders Association, a creature of statute. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Amos Mnguni. I'm also a member of Gauteng Liquor Traders Association. Ke a leboga.
Morning, everyone. My name is Musanchanga Se, Gauteng Liquor Traders Association General Secretary. Thank you.
Greetings all. My name is Puti Mulongwana, Acting Deputy Director, Gauteng Liquor Board, under Compliance and Law Enforcement. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm wearing two caps. My name is Kabelo Cholo. Media, and also agency representing partner agencies in the liquor industry.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nkhopi Matigiza. I'm the private secretary to the MEC. Thank you.
Tobela Dumelang, Huyamore, David Molapo, the head servant of ICANN, focusing on empowering the next generation of leaders on binge drinking awareness program, and also responsible for harmful reduction, sponsored by Heineken.
Morning, everyone. I am one of the lead facilitators on that program, and also one of the project managers heading the harm reduction program in our TVET colleges and our universities.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tato Badi. I am one of the lead facilitators for our binge drinking campaign, sponsored by Heineken. We also do focus on men forums as well.
Morning, everyone. My name is Carmela Gabakisa, and I am the Sustainability Manager at Diageo for Southern Africa and the Indian Ocean.
Morning, everyone. My name is Siliziwe Makengelele, and I'm the Corporate Relations and Compliance Manager at Diageo.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kumera Muripo. I'm the head of office of the MEC.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brandon Smith, Gauteng Department of Education, Learner Psychosocial Support.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mpho Mokoena, responsible for the substance abuse program from the Department of Social Development. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Faith Hlati. I'm also from the West Rand Department of Social Development. I'm also responsible for substance abuse programs.
Good morning, Honorable MEC and all participants in the meeting. My name is Memme Makane Sibanda, and I'm the Chief Director responsible for provincial oversight of all the police stations in Gauteng. Thanks.
Good morning, everybody. I am Kashifa Answer, Project Lead for DG Murray Trust Rethink Your Drink campaign. I'm joined today by Sarah Mamelodi, who is one of our implementing partners here in the province, working directly with taverns in the area. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Danisile Sateche, and I work in the office of MEC Ramokgopa, managing media and comms. Thank you.
Good morning, colleagues. My name is Buitumelo Mokoena. I'm the Assistant Director under Client Relations Management.
Good morning, colleagues and MEC. My name is Figile Chabalala from Communications Publications. Thank you.
Good morning, colleagues in the MEC. I'm very shy. So my name is Nozipo. I'm the one at the background. So Deputy Director for Client Relations in the Gauteng Liquor Board. The team has said I must introduce everybody. And then this is my beautiful team, but they will introduce themselves.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Pilasande Ntozini. I'm the intern in the Chief Director's Office, Gauteng Liquor Board.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Koketso Tladi, and I'm also an intern under the Gauteng Liquor Board under the Unit of Client Relation Management.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Lamalani Vuma. I am a communications intern at the Gauteng Department of Economic Development.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Lawrence Manaka, and I'm responsible for digital comms and research for MEC.
Good morning, colleagues. I'm Carol Mohlala. I am Assistant Director, Advertising and Brand Management for the Gauteng Department of Economic Development.
Can we get a round of applause for the beautiful spectrum of the industry? Thank you very much, MEC. As you can see, we've got everybody in the room for this inaugural launch. We will be working this journey with them. This is a very important journey, and it will not end here. While we might have had just 5 pillars for the kickstart of this particular implementation program, we will be expanding as we go along. We are currently, in terms of the program, we are on point number 3, where I will then just quickly outline the purpose of why we are gathered here today. The purpose of the Strategic Liquor Stakeholder Forum is driven by the need to strengthen coordination and collaboration in addressing the persistent and complex challenges associated with alcohol consumption and harm in Gauteng. While the Gauteng Liquor Board has a clear regulatory mandate to oversee the manufacture, the distribution and sale of liquor, the continued prevalence of alcohol-related harm, including crime, gender-based violence, road fatalities, and mounting public health pressures, highlights the limitation of isolated and fragmented interventions. These challenges can obviously not be solved in silos. They require an integrated, multi-stakeholder response that brings together regulators, industry players, law enforcement agencies, and public health institutions to collectively confront the social, economic, and health impacts of the alcohol abuse. The objective of this forum is to create a structured platform for strategic engagement, accountability, resource aggregation, and coordinated action amongst all stakeholders. Through this platform, we will collaborate on evidence-based interventions, share critical data and insight through research, and align our efforts with provincial priorities for harm reduction and public safety. A key expectation is that each stakeholder will adopt and champion a core pillar within their existing programs, ensuring focused, measurable, and sustained impact. The pillars will include social harm and community safety. Pillar number 2 is mental health and sustainable substance abuse. Pillar number 3 is the impact of pregnant women and children. Pillar number 4 is underage drinking. And the last pillar is illicit alcohol, counterfeit alcohol, and illegal trading. By embedding these pillars into ongoing initiatives, this forum will seek to drive collective responsibility and foster a culture of ethical, responsible, and sustainable practices across the liquor sector. Ladies and gentlemen, today is the beginning of a new chapter, one defined not by fragmented efforts, but by partnership, not by reactive measures, but by proactive, coordinated action. Let us use this platform to move beyond dialogue and into implementation. Let us hold one another accountable, and most importantly, let us work together to build a liquor sector that not only contributes to economic growth, but also protects and uplifts the communities we serve. Thank you very much. I will now call on the Honorable MEC of Economic Development, Agriculture and Rural Development, Ms. Vuyiswa Ramokgopa, to deliver her keynote address.
Thank you, Chief Director. I think you've very eloquently summed up the purpose of today. And it's an absolute pleasure to meet you all, to be acquainted with you all, and to hear from all of you the different institutions, organizations that are represented in the room today. Galidumedisa, Sanbonani, Huyamora, good morning, Absheni, Molweni, all greetings observed. Let me also greet the chairperson of the Gauteng Liquor Board. You are welcome, Honorable Chair, and the broader leadership of the Gauteng Liquor Board, the captains of industry and distinguished stakeholders present. It is indeed a pleasure to host you this morning and to have an opportunity to engage with you in a forum such as this one that is convening for what I believe is a very noble cause, but also a very necessary discussion in our national and socioeconomic context. Let me start by saying that, the regulation of alcohol is often framed simply as a compliance issue, as a matter of licensing, enforcement, and oversight. But what today acknowledges is that it goes beyond that. It's a lot more than that. It's a reflection on how we govern cooperatively, collaboratively, and the complexity, in fact, of the industry that we are all involved in. It's about balancing economic participation with social responsibility. And ultimately, it's about how we sustain and protect the well-being of our communities. Alcohol forms a part of our social and economic fabric, not just in Gauteng, but in the country. It is part of how we celebrate, part of how we mourn and grieve, but also part of how we socialize and connect with each other. It supports livelihoods, it drives economic activity, and of course, sustains an extensive and value-adding value chain. And in many communities, particularly our under-resourced and underserved communities, this is not a peripheral matter. It is how families survive. It is the small tavern owner who is keeping a business running. It is a mother who is using that income to put food on the table, to send her children to school, and to hold a household together. And that reality must be recognized and acknowledged. At the same time, we must be equally honest about the cost, the social cost, when that system is not well managed. The impact, once again, is most deeply felt in our homes, in our communities, and in the increasing demand on our public systems. Now, both of these realities exist at the same time, and our responsibility, and the core of what we are here to discuss today, is how do we balance these two realities more effectively? What brings us together here today is a shared recognition that our response has to evolve, and that to do so, we must coordinate better, we must communicate better, and ultimately collaborate in service of our communities. So today marks a decisive step. And I'd like to commend you, Chief Director, and the broader team, the Liquor Board and its leadership, for initiating and conceiving of this forum. The launch of the Strategic Liquor Stakeholder Forum sets an important foundation and an important precedent for how this province intends to respond to the impact of the liquor industry and the role of the liquor industry. And it sets the tone that Gauteng is not going to be responding in a fragmented way, but rather our focus is on coordination, on sustainability, and on shared responsibility. Now, the data gives us a very clear picture about where the pressure is most felt by the sector. Alcohol, we know, is a core contributor to rates of violence. And the evidence consistently demonstrates that alcohol plays a significant role in violent crime, particularly during weekends and late night hours when consumption and incidents peak. Nowhere is that more stark than in the home, where alcohol is linked to over 55% of domestic violence cases. Now, in the context of gender-based violence and intimate partner violence, the role of alcohol is both direct and devastating. It doesn't merely accompany violence, it intensifies it. In many instances, it even causes it. It impairs judgment, lowers inhibition, and increases the likelihood that violence will occur and the severity of its consequences. The impact extends beyond households into our public spaces. On our roads, alcohol impairment accounts for approximately 27% of fatalities nationally. Now, these are not just statistics. This is a representation of lives cut short, families that are permanently altered, and communities that are left to absorb the consequences. Within our healthcare system as well, the pressure is constant and ever present. Emergency units and trauma centers carry a sustained burden of alcohol-related injuries, from violent assaults to preventable accidents. Now, the long-term effects are, of course, equally profound. South Africa also continues to record among the highest rates of fetal alcohol spectrum disorders globally, embedding the disadvantages before a child has even had the opportunity to begin their life. And given our commitment to inclusive economic growth and to a fair and just society, this is not a reality that we can endure or permit. These are not temporary statistical concepts. They are developmental outcomes. They speak to our broader growth trajectory as a country and as an economy. So we must engage with the systemic impact, but also the systemic nature of this industry, one that cuts across public safety, public health, social development, and economic sustainability. But with coordination, with accountability, and with sustained intent, I am of the firm belief that it is an issue that can be managed and can be addressed meaningfully and with urgency. Now, this is not to say that there has not been already a lot of initiatives and investment into responsible alcohol consumption and harm reduction. There have been some highly commendable initiatives and efforts that have already started to make significant impact in this industry. Across government, across industry and civil society, there are multiple initiatives that are already underway. Awareness campaigns on responsible consumption, programs that address underage drinking, and industry-led compliance and education initiatives, as well as public health interventions targeting substance abuse. I recently read an article that talked about how alcohol consumption rates are reducing amongst Gen Z. Now, for some in this room, maybe that's a good thing. For others, maybe not. Either way, clearly something we're doing is working. And we cannot also underestimate the impact of these cultural shifts, trends, and how people evolve in their behavior and social behavior over time. We are impacted by that. So what is required and what we're hoping to achieve today is a structured approach that brings all of these efforts into alignment so that we can aggregate these efforts. We can build the economies of scale that will enable us to really start shifting the needle in the direction that I believe many of us in this room are eager to see us moving towards. And this is precisely why this forum is being launched today. It's about moving from a fragmented effort to coordinated impact. And it introduces a formal mechanism for engagement. It creates that platform for coordination. And it establishes a foundation for a more coherent, system-wide response to alcohol-related harm in our province. Now, the CEO, the chief director, I was with her yesterday where she's a CEO in another entity, so forgive me. The chief director said and emphasized that it's not simply about starting another forum or another layer of engagement, but it's us really acknowledging where there are gaps and seeking to close those gaps and make the necessary corrections. A correction that allows the sector to continue growing, but on a foundation that is responsible and sustainable. A correction to a system in which effort has been present, but the impact has not always been consistently realized, especially not at the level at which we would want to see. Now, the data we've already considered, from the statistics on violent crime and the impact on communities, doesn't point to a lack of awareness. We are all aware, actually, of these statistics, but it points rather to a lack of alignment. So this forum creates that single point of convergence between policy, regulation, and industry practice. And it establishes a mechanism through which outcomes, not activities, become the base of assessment. I hope you heard me there. Outcomes, not activities, become the measure of assessment. This is a deliberate shift from a fragmented effort to a single structured system and a core focus pivoting towards outcomes. And if this forum is to be successful, we must also be able to clearly define what those priorities are and pursue them with consistency and discipline. And there are three key things that I believe should guide the work of this forum going forward. Firstly, it really should be about establishing an integrated harm reduction system. Now, the impact of alcohol doesn't present itself in a single form. It doesn't sit within a single department. It is present in community safety. It is present in the healthcare system. It's present in households, particularly in the context of vulnerable households. Our response, therefore, must also be integrated and supported by shared data, by coordinated interventions, and targeted implementation. This means alignment between public health, law enforcement, community-level engagements, a clear understanding of where the high-risk areas are and high-risk behaviors. So your social workers and community practitioners play a critical role as a first line of defense and also a source of information that will enable us to better respond. It's also about an integrated system that allows government and its partners to move away from reacting to incidents to shaping outcomes. Secondly, what should form a key focus of this forum is to agree on accountability mechanisms. Accountability mechanisms that can be measured and that can be enforced. Now, where harm is measurable, accountability must also be measurable. This forum must introduce a culture where commitments are clearly defined, where the contributions are measurable, and progress is consistently tracked. So it's not about a once-off event. It's about having an ongoing mechanism to assess whether we are indeed making progress and to be able to therefore tweak if need be, if we find our approaches are not successful. Third, it's really about galvanizing industry and particularly industry leadership. And the presence today here of the industry and industry leadership is highly significant. And we once again want to just recognize and acknowledge your presence here. The industry, the liquor industry plays a significant role in this province and in this province's economic development. It supports jobs, it supports small businesses, and it supports local economies all across Gauteng. But with that role comes great responsibility. So in practical terms, we must be able to engage with how products are sold, how spaces are managed, and how communities are affected. Responsible trading must be at the core of what we endeavor to be about as an industry, and it must be the standard. Now, this includes constant and consistent adherence to licensing conditions, responsible marketing and distribution practices, and active participation in harm reduction activities and initiatives that are aligned with provincial priorities. And more importantly, it really just requires leadership. Leadership that recognizes that long-term sustainability in this sector is directly linked to our ability to reduce the harm associated with alcohol consumption. And it's central to the credibility and future of the industry. And we too, as the state, have a very important role to play. Not just as regulators. Are you okay there? But also in setting the direction and the tone. It's about ensuring that this sector continues to contribute meaningfully to economic activity and provincial revenue in a way that is sustainable. Now, government must and will continue to provide that regulatory framework within which this sector operates, while also contributing meaningfully to economic activity and provincial revenue in a sustainable manner. That means ensuring that this forum remains focused on outcomes, ensuring that data informs decision-making, and ensuring that commitments translate into measurable impact. And more practically, ensuring that we ourselves do our part. Regulation is not there to penalize. It is actually there to protect. It is there to protect the vulnerable. It is there to protect those who need to be protected by the potential harms of the industry. But I believe there's always room, and there should be room, for a constant engagement between the regulators and those who are regulated to ensure that we are doing so in a manner that is helping the industry as well and ensuring that the industry continues to grow. So what we are confronting today, colleagues, is not simply a policy issue. It is a societal challenge, and it requires an all-of-society approach. And as I said earlier, it's really about reflecting on the kind of communities we want to build. Every single one of us comes from a family. Every family exists in a community. Every community exists in a city. And the cities become our province. So there is no provincial policy that can exist outside of the single unit, which is the health and well-being of every single family in this province. And we must be able to have a single discussion about the type of province, the type of people, and the type of country we want to be, and how we as a collective forum are going to contribute to that. So, as I conclude, I want to say that this is also not an overnight thing. This country comes a long way and has a long history with alcohol and the liquor industry and the culture of alcohol consumption. And as I said, it is part and parcel of how we live and socialize as South Africans. I can't imagine watching a rugby game without something frothing nearby, or celebrating a big milestone without a clinking glass. And this is to be celebrated. We are festive people. We are people who like to connect and socialize, and we are welcoming. That is who we are. And we must continue to be that. But in doing that, we must also be able to redefine and reshape the culture of alcohol consumption. to one that is responsible, to one that is ethical, and ultimately sustainable in the broader story of economic development of our province and our country. So that project doesn't begin tomorrow, it starts today, in this room, with the people in this room. And there are, and there may well be, many who were not able to make it today or who are not in the room today. Again, the door remains open to those who would want to come along with us on this journey. It's not a closed forum. Chief Director, I believe after this inaugural session, there may well be many others who will join us on this journey. So we must leave this room today to also go and spread the message, to say this platform exists, let us organize ourselves, let's bring the industry on board, let's bring communities on board, and let us develop a plan as a province on how we become really the shining light for responsible alcohol consumption in the country. As our former president, Thabo Mbeki, reminds us, the future is not something we enter. The future is something we create. Let us use today to create that future. I thank you.
Thank you very much, MEC, for that well-crafted keynote address that captures the essence of how we move forward. We usually say when we meet the MEC for the first time, she gives us marching orders. I think that is our guide as an industry today. MEC, I think we've always been honest in terms of the limitations we might have as a regulator as well within the work that we are supposed to do within the industry. We've always been very open with the industry in terms of what we require assistance with. And I think this particular forum is also just an indication of the relationships we have been able to nurture along the years. And we do appreciate your involvement and your participation, always raising your hands. I think while we always might want to say resource-wise, you know, we always say, "Ow, Ostulo, come with your money." We'll come with our inspectors here and there, you know, but you've always been receptive across the different programs we've implemented. MEC, you've mentioned those key focus areas, those 3 that I think will guide us, and I think you'll be glad to see that as Ms. Cleo Budube-Lishaba prepares herself to come up to present just a summarized version of how we are going to work and implement this particular forum moving forward. You'll be happy to see that we would have zoned in and zoomed in into those 3 elements of integrated harm reduction system, and where we would want to agree on accountability mechanisms that we are able to measure ultimately, and also just to bring the entire industry along through the 6 pillars that we would have included as part of the forum. I think one thing about a province that we are very competitive in nature. We always want to be the best. So for me, I'm quite excited because what this forum will do is set a blueprint for all the other provinces within the country. Now I want to travel with winners. So, but with the programs that I've seen the industry implement, we are well on our way to do exactly that. Again, as Ms. Cleo comes up, let us keep the words in mind, impact-driven and not activity-driven. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our Chief Director. Greetings to everyone. Special greetings to yourself, MEC, HOD in absentia, and all protocol observed. You know, having to come here after MEC, after our Chief Director, I'm sitting there listening to them, speaking so eloquently, and I'm like, what else am I supposed to say? They are done, can't we just go home? But of course, I am here to basically say, having heard what it is that they've said, how do we get there? It is very important that we keep in mind, and I'm going to borrow some of the words that have been used. For the longest time, MEC and colleagues, we've been working, initiating, and so on. But for some reason, and for various other challenges, there hasn't been a before picture picture and an after picture. And the key here is impact. Let me bore you for 1 minute and tell you what my daughter said to me this morning as I left. We're in the car, of course, she interviews me every morning. She says to me, so today, who are you seeing? I'm counting all of you as in stakeholders. She says, are you seeing them together under the same roof today? And I said, yes. And she says, Mommy, you're making history. You're changing the narrative. And I'm echoing exactly that. I have been with the Gauteng Liquor Board for a while, and it never happens that we are all under the same roof. Yes, we work together here and there, but this time around, we are collaborating. And indeed, this is not a once-off MEC. We want to see it carry on as we change the narrative as we move ahead. Presentation, I thought it would be flighting already. This would be the first presentation. And as I mentioned, it's mainly on the how do we carry on, or how do we rather achieve what we'd like to achieve. Okay, please excuse me. I think I might have to stand on the side. I'll just hold the mic. My apologies, colleagues. I know that's not a nice sound. All right. In brief, we are going to, in a very few minutes, by the way, probably 15, 20 minutes, I'm going to be taking you through the journey, if you like, the itinerary in terms of where we want to be, what we want to achieve. Of course, we're doing that in a form of a document. Most of you would have seen the document, and some of you have actually even given inputs. So we'll go through the document, but in PowerPoint format, we'll go through the objectives and the purpose, which really leverages on what Chief and MEC have already mentioned. We'll interrogate a little bit the problem statement, touch on the terms of reference for the forum, the composition, governance, operation model, the role of GLB in the whole process. Yes, we are regulators, but our role does not only end there. There are certain milestones that we're going to be touching on as well. I'll touch on the core pillars, though they have been mentioned very wonderfully. And of course, we'll look at the gaps that have been identified, but not only identified, but the recommendations that come with that. Okay, I guess I went backward instead of forward. In a very nutshell, really, the Gauteng Liquor Board, we know by now, we are a regulator within the industry. Who do we regulate? We regulate the sale of alcohol and, of course, the retailers that come with that. Why is it that we do that? We want to ensure that we fulfill our mandate. What is that mandate? It's social responsibility, among others. There has been words that have been uttered around job creation, et cetera, but it goes beyond that. But also the objectives that we really are aiming at achieving is mainly around the monitoring of the licenses, obviously, which is our retailers on the ground. It doesn't only end there. We want to ensure at the same time that we enforce, and I'm sure Mbongeni, as I'm saying enforce, he's getting very excited, and ensure compliance. If you want to really excite him, that's when you talk compliance. All right. I won't go through every single one of these. We have seen them from time to time. I have spoken to stakeholders from time to time. We share the same sentiments. But this is just our reminder in terms of why are we here? What is it that is pushing us to do this? I'll touch on one or two things. One of the major things for me is the bullet point number 4. Current efforts are fragmented. For me, we need to really collaborate. If there's any other word that you forget today, from my mind, it is collaboration. We need to work together. SEPs can't do it alone. GLB cannot do it alone. Even with yourselves as various stakeholders, you wouldn't be able to do all of this alone. Also, well, of course, we've touched on this one, the fact that the stakeholder forum is proposed to drive and align and really lead to ensure that we are all on the same page. Earlier on, Chief Director touched on the SONA and the SOPA. And of course, now we're shaking. It was almost like I was told as the Director of Client Relations Management that you are doing nothing in the province. When I know that on a daily basis we are out there educating, I know DFSA does the same thing, aware, et cetera, So literally, it really kind of gave me that urge to do more. The purpose of this, again, I won't repeat, some of the words have been mentioned. What I will probably just touch on in this case is the alignment with the strategic priorities. so far, what we've been doing, it would be what is prompted by a problem in a community, what is prompted by something that would emerge somewhere. But it hasn't necessarily been aligned with the government's strategies, etc. And that's what we want to change this time around, among others. Of course, as I said, I won't go through every single one. But on the objectives, very important, the formal mechanism in terms of engagement. Our engagement in the past has been very ad hoc, very informal. Sometimes in a year, I'd see UJ once or twice a year. I'd see aware.org once or twice. Sometimes if there hasn't been a need and there hasn't been activities, we wouldn't see each other. But this time around, we are going to be meeting on a quarterly basis. We'll all know that in 3 months' time, we're going to be meeting and see what it is that we've been doing, encourage one another. And I think that one of the two speakers already spoke on accountability as well. We will also be held accountable by yourselves, by the way. That GLB, we are bringing this to the table. What are you bringing? Yes, we know the challenges that we're experiencing as government, but that does not exonerate us from also contributing. But also identification of priority interventions. There is a lot out there of interventions, but there are priority ones. Being in government, everyone talks about low-hanging fruit. What are those that would assist us to change the lives in the community, to change the narrative around alcohol consumption? What are those easy ones that we can literally achieve and be able to make that difference? Of course, this time around also we're going to be monitoring on a regular basis. We will be monitoring ourselves, accounting to one another, and of course, strengthening the compliance and ethical conduct that comes with the process. Okay. In terms of composition, this is the composition of the forum. Everyone that is sitting here, the organization that you are representing, you are actually part of the composition. Yes, the Gauteng Liquor Board is going to be running in terms of secretariat, ensuring that we take minutes, we send out invites, we share the minutes, etc. But also there will be other things that we do. But like I said, all of you as our stakeholders, and of course it's not everyone that is here. Some of our organizations or stakeholders have mentioned that they had prior engagements, but that is everyone. The liquor industry, associates, bodies, manufacturers, distributors, public health, we even have community safety, social development, you name it. And most importantly as well, the law enforcement. At some point as I was finalizing, I thought we should have brought NPA as well. I was thinking of what Mbongedi would say. Oslio, but when we get to court, this happens, that happens. And I thought, next time, Nzobalanda, Nzobatol. Governance and operation model, I won't go through this one, but I'm sure as I'm speaking, you are able to make the links. What I can just maybe touch on in this one, what I haven't mentioned, I think I mentioned everything really. Maybe the fourth point, the forum will operate as an advisory capacity. Literally, we are going to be putting our heads together in terms of paving the way forward. Let me just also challenge you, this is not even on the slides. I get at some point you do some introspection. I'm thinking of our program names, underage drinking, sober pregnancy, etc., etc. I'm like, man, let's shake things a little bit. Let's use the language of the people that go to taverns today. Let's change I don't want to repeat the word narrative, but let's be relevant in terms of what is being said out there. Thank goodness for Smashed Diageo. We worked together in one of the schools. At some point I was like, am I going to be standing in front of the learners and preaching underage drinking? And of course, they acted it out. It was almost an edutainment process, which I really appreciated. That is their language. Their actors were speaking their language, not a language that I would be speaking. That was just something on the side. But also, what is our role? I mentioned this really, I don't want to repeat in the interest of time. The flagship programs have also been mentioned a few times. These are kind of giving us a nudge in terms of where we want to concentrate on or which box do we want to put ourselves into. The first one, you'll notice the social harm and the community community safety, that is key. You know, I won't tell you the number of calls that I get on a daily basis, particularly on weekend. People complaining about the noise at a tavern, sometimes even a bottle store, sometimes even a restaurant in the middle of Sandton selling alcohol to children in their school uniform. The second one, addressing the comorbidity and the mental health conditions. It is amazing how much mental health is linked to alcohol consumption. Of course, not just alcohol, but many other substances out there. Impact on women and children. This is my favorite that we do with aware.org on sober pregnancy. You know, just to give an example, when a child is born with FSD, that means that is our burden for that child forever. Literally. And remember, and some of you have children would know, the reason we raise them up to be adults, it's so that they can, amen, let them be independent. Now, with a child born with FSD, they will never, ever be entirely independent. So we really need to address that one. Underage drinking, I won't touch on it. We spoke a lot on it. This one, my brother, Mbongeni, would say, Sisley, no, man, it's not just illicit alcohol. But think about the counterfeit. And at some point when he speaks, I'm like, yeah, you know, but all right, yes, all right. So this time around, what I'm saying is some of you, the documents you have would only have illicit alcohol, but I've got to then, we had to include the counterfeit as well. So those are the things. And of course, we're going to have a presentation from Ms. Russell just now. She will be able to outline some of the work that has been done around that. But what I'm more excited about is the enforcement in terms of what is it that we're doing. And you're going to be shocked when she shares how much we are losing out from a fiscus point of view because of illicit alcohol. All right, as I conclude, once again, in the interest of time, I won't touch on anything that I haven't mentioned. Yeah, literally. Maybe I can just touch on the second last bullet in terms of the forum enabling the integration of research data. You know, that's one of the areas that you find getting research. And that's where Dr. Shamal, my favorite, the work that you do, you remember as he introduced himself, in terms of policy, in terms of research, etc. Sometimes, well, from time to time, I would feel like, some of you will interpret. I feel like we don't really know what we're doing. We're kind of aiming, you know, everywhere and hoping to hit a star or a moon. But this time around, you know, with research, etc., we will be able to say, this was the before act. This is the research that has been done. This is the work that we've done. How much of it has been achieved? 20%, 80%, we'll see as time moves along. So my presentation ends here. I am hoping that we all have a better idea in terms of how then are we going to be moving forward in terms of the forum. Nozi likes this slide very much. Nozi, the thank you slide. Oh. If we don't, my team is laughing because they know exactly what I mean. So thank you so much. I'm going to leave the presentation right here and hand over to the Chief Director. Thank you, everybody.
Can we tell she's an educator? We don't have to say it. Thank you so much, Ostlio. I think it's quite important. We will share all documentations that are presented here today, together with the MEC's speech as well, so that you are able to, again, have a greater reach across the different platforms that you do share. We thought it's very vital that we summarize at least. We from government, and we had this conversation with Ostlio, I'm like, I do not want to see 90 paragraphs on one slide, because as government, it's in our nature to try and over-explain things. I'm like, let's make it, you know, let's simplify it so that we attach it to the document and then colleagues are able to engage and interrogate the document, and we will have another opportunity to do so with the forums that we'll be having on a quarterly basis. But in essence, thank you so much, Ostlio, for capturing how we are going to move forward in terms of implementing the forum itself. The industry has a wonderful ability to organize themselves. And I think it shows in what aware.org does. most of you are members of aware.org. And what it does for government is that we are able to recognize the intention to respond to all these challenges that we are experiencing. With that said, let me call Ms. Mokebo Tulo. She is the CEO of aware.org, and then she will just share a few words with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Greetings to the Honorable MEC, who is sitting right there. And of course, to the Chair and Deputy Chair of the Gauteng Liquor Board. Thank you to Ms. Griselda Venter and her team for this invitation and for inclusion in this fantastic launch. We are very pleased to be here. My name is Mokebe Tulo, and I represent aware.org, which represents to all ends the liquor industry. So I'm going to spare us many words and, sorry, which way am I pointing? Oh, there we go. Yes. I'm going to be sparing us many words from my mouth and mostly showing you in action some of the work that we do on a daily basis. I think that much of what we've heard so far is incredibly encouraging in terms of what I believe is what everyone in this room is here for. I think that at the end of the day, we have a single North Star, and that is to see the citizens of our country, specifically the citizens of Gauteng, at the very best they can be. I think it is important to note, as Griselda mentioned, that yes, of course, Gauteng is a competitive region, and we aim to do the very best. But I do believe that this is a national good. I think that what we are doing here today will be something that sets the path forward for the future. So some of the words that we've heard today are words like fragmentation and collaboration and the coordination that is required. And the reality of it is that fragmentation is the enemy of collaboration and coordination. And so for us, it is extremely important that we sit in a space where we understand what collaboration means, and not just as a word that we toss out on a regular basis, but on an action that we are actually able to measure based on the impact that we provide to, of course, the people that we are here to serve, which are ultimately the citizens of South Africa, the citizens of Gauteng specifically. As aware.org, our job is to drive socially responsible use of alcohol. And how we do this is, reducing its harmful use. And I'm very pleased to hear terms like the whole of society being introduced, because that is exactly the work that we do. In terms of how we do this is that we are a data-driven and research-driven organization. And so all the work that we do is based on what we understand to be the reality on the ground. We take not only a local, but also a global view of what the harm is in terms of alcohol itself. And we try to understand how it is, through collaboration with the communities that we work within, how it is best to solve this problem. Because you cannot go into communities, as I think everyone in this room knows, and believe that we understand the solutions that are required. It's about collaboration, it's about co-creation, and it's about doing the work together and then taking the responsibility for having done that work together. And so off to my first video we go.
We are aware.org, the custodians of responsible drinking in South Africa. Our mission is simple yet profound: to reduce alcohol-related harm, to safeguard lives, and create a safer tomorrow. Our work is focused on 3 key areas: preventing underage drinking, promoting sober pregnancies, and making our roads safer by eliminating drunk driving. By partnering with implementing partners, experts, and communities, we drive programs that raise awareness and inspire change for all of society. But beyond the numbers, partners, and programs, what we do is about real people and real lives, with every story of change reflecting our mission. Here are some of those stories.
So we teach pregnant mothers that no amount of alcohol at any time of a pregnancy is not good for the fetus. The mother of one of the respondents brought the child for tests and the child was diagnosed with FASD. She fell pregnant again and she joined the program, the Healthy Mother, Healthy Baby program. The child then born with going through this program is now very much differently developed mentally and physically than the other children in the house. With that, I would say that FARS program really has an impact in guiding the mother through her struggles and having a healthy baby.
I'm moving in traffic and I'm stopped and I'm told, "Hello sir, you're under arrest." In that moment, a lot goes through my head. I was tasked with a simple thing to just take my partner together with my daughter there to Rembrandt, and all of a sudden I'm being arrested. It's not a sight I'd like her to see of me. So I'm in the cell. I remember I was speaking to a certain policeman, and in the conversation, somehow she said, but then there's a necro program that you can do instead of going to court. Through the necro program, I was able to learn a lot of things with regard to my behavior, my psychological behavior, my emotional well-being at the time while on the road. It's one of those things where if more people did it, then we'd have more people being responsible on the road. If we are informed and taught to do better, we can do better.
Just starts with one class to the second one, to the third one, to you buying it for yourself. And then after buying for yourself, where you have to crave, your hands are shaking and you just want another drink, you just want another bottle. The only danger that actually made me feel like now I've hit rock bottom when I was raped by 2 men. After that whole incident, that's where I went to drinking more. I always blamed my parents for not seeing that I was intoxicated, and when I wanted help, it was very difficult for me because now I'm like, I've been going through so much and you guys never saw what is going on in my life. At school, they tested me and they were like, there's something up with your behavior, what's going on with you? They showed me that they can give me help by giving me a Sanka letter. And then they explained to me the process of Sanka, and then that's where I was like, this is what I need. At that moment in time when I was very addicted and I was in that situation and depressed, I was very suicidal. My social workers and the people that work there actually helped me understand myself more and show myself love. From my social worker especially, he actually made me feel amazing. He made me feel like a person again. Before I started being a coach, I lost my mom. Now, having to do the job that I do, let me just say it gave me a reason to live again. Knowing that to them, they appreciate each and everything that we do. If the parents couldn't do it, we are gonna do it. So I see diamonds in them. I see them representing where we come from.
These stories are just a glimpse of the countless lives we've touched. None of this would be possible without the steadfast support of our members and partners. This culture of responsibility is a shared journey, and it requires the whole of society, every one of us, be it individuals, families, communities, and corporates. We are aware.org, the custodians of responsible drinking in South Africa. Our mission is simple yet profound.
Thank you. This slide behind me shows our national footprint. And I think if we are to take anything from the video that we just saw, it's three things. Number one, this is about human beings. It's about lives that are affected. It's about lives that are changed. It's about not some stranger in some different universe. It's about our brothers, our sisters, our mothers, our fathers, and our family members. And not only from a harm reduction beneficiary point of view, but also from the economic point of view. We're talking about human beings, and that is critically important. Number two, the reason that aware.org can exist is that we are member-led and that we are organized around resources that we are able to then put out into the communities, into schools, into the country in order for us to run our programs. And then the last bit is that it is all about the partnerships that we have formed and the partnerships that we work very hard to maintain in order for us to be able to do any of this work, which without we would not be able to do. And so that allows us to have this national footprint that you can see. And you can see that specifically when we're talking about the road safety part of it, law enforcement is one of our largest partners at the moment, working with a number of metros. And you'll see that in the work that we're doing towards this year, we are bringing more strongly into it SAPS, which is an important bridge in terms of the work that we're doing, as well as the NPA, because in order for us to do a 360 job, we have to touch across the touch points. And then, of course, sober pregnancies, which Cleo touched on, which is probably the silent harm in the room that is barely looked at and should certainly get much more attention than it does. Next slide, please. And so when we look at our three-pillar diagnostic matrix, you can see our three pillars. As I said, no to under 18, don't drink and drive, as well as sober pregnancies. Our primary interventions vary across the different pillars. When we're looking specifically at no to under 18, we're looking at education and peer-to-peer influence. And this is based on the research that tells us that the biggest drivers of harmful consumption or alcohol consumption in teens or children, under 18s are in fact children, are peer pressure as well as what they see at home. And then when we look at, for example, don't drink and drive, we look at visible enforcement and structural rehabilitation as being a huge part of this huge organ in order for us to see impact and to see a change in the movement of the numbers. And then, of course, under sober pregnancies, clinical health education and psychosocial support. But across the board, I think we can mostly agree that harm, when it comes to alcohol consumption, is generally a social ill and is something that has to be attacked on that basis. And that in order for us to make a lasting impact, we have to make sure that it is behavioral change at the very base of it, and therefore understanding the reasons behind this behavior in the first place. Next slide, please. And so we continue on our key organizational momentum, which is program scale. We are often asked, what are your numbers? When are you scaling? And of course, the resources are finite, as I'm sure most of us are aware. And we do the best we can from a scaling point of view. And how we are able to scale is through platforms such as the one that we sit in, where we are able to share the challenges that we face and therefore are able to assist each other as organizations that have the same North Star in terms of harm reduction. And that therefore leads to the partnership growth that we speak of. And of course, in order to be able to do this, we have to be innovative. not just innovative in a way of bringing in, for example, technology, digital solutions, and AI into practice, but innovative in the way we think about harm reduction, innovative in the way we think about solutions, innovative in the way we think about how we can spread resources rather than create wastage in the work that we do. Next slide, please. And this is a video that is going to show you, in fact, the campaigns that we do, which are the mass education, the mass awareness that give us the structures to be out there, reach people en masse, in addition to the programs that we run.
To drive a culture of responsible drinking, we put the spotlight on South Africans' choices and gave them every reason to choose better. To shift culture, we had to meet it and then disrupt it. In 2024, 2025, and into 2026, Aware.org ran campaigns that changed the conversation and changed behavior.
The answer is no to underage drinking, zero tolerance to underage drinking.
We turned moments into movements, platforms into megaphones. Because changing drinking culture starts with changing choices. We created the real inmates of South Africa, fictional characters inspired by real consequences, a mirror of a possible reality that hit home with truth. Before the first drink was even poured, we stepped in earlier. With Shiimoto, Leave Your Car Behind, we reframed the decision. Not as a restriction, but as a plan. Because the safest drive is the one you never take. We made responsible choices feel effortless, as natural as getting ready for the night ahead. Then, we shifted the lens even further for our latest Easter campaign, because when you drive, you're never alone. With Never Alone, we moved the conversation from individual risk to collective responsibility. Every journey carries more than just you. Every decision affects more than one life. Because someone is always waiting at the end of the road. We met youth where they are, inside their favorite stories. On Scheme Psalm, we used entertainment to seed real-life consequences. In Real Talk MOT chats, young people confronted the pressure, the silence, and the myths around underage drinking together. And in the virtual world, we created safe, gamified spaces where youth could play, party, and learn, all while making the right choice. As a new year begins, we shifted the narrative again by reminding young people saying no isn't about restriction, it's about ambition. With a future to be proud of, we invited young people to look ahead, to imagine who they want to become, and make choices that protect that future. Framing responsibility as confidence, as pride, as leadership. Because the future they build starts with the choices they make today. 11% of babies born in South Africa are affected by FASD. We revealed the uncomfortable truth and a powerful prevention message. No amount of alcohol is safe. But awareness alone isn't enough. So, we brought the right voices to the table. Through a national FASD Healthy Futures Roundtable, Aware.org convened experts, partners, and stakeholders to confront the reality of prenatal alcohol exposure and drive real evidence-based solutions. Because preventing FASD takes more than a message. It takes a whole of society commitment to protect the next generation. We gave people the power to change in their own hands. An app that helps South Africans track their drinking, reflect on patterns, and build better habits. Culture doesn't change with posters. It changes with pressure, with platforms, with presence. From festive nights to long weekends, from classrooms to communities, from roadblocks to real roads, Aware.org showed up to challenge behavior, to spark conversation, to shift a nation's mindset, and to remind South Africans again and again, make the right choice.
move along. Thank you. And of course, the video that we just showed speaks to our motto that says we need to meet our audience where they are. If we want to speak to people, we speak to them where they are, in the language that they speak, not in what we think works, but what we see to work based on either research or the insights that we gain as we do the work that we do. Now, the next section speaks to the accountability and the impact that we spoke to, and I'm not going to delve into this. As Cleo said, and as Ms. Criselda said, the presentations will be available. As we move quickly through each of the slides, no to under 18, what we did want to show you, next slide please, is the impact that we were able to achieve last year from a numbers point of view. We managed to reach just under 200,000 learners, having exceeded our target of 110,000. Our targets for us are so critical, and that is what we are measured against. We are about looking at the picture before and then after, and not only from a numbers reach point of view, which is how many people and lives that we touched face to face directly. Next slide, please. But then also looking at the pre and the post through the surveys that we do. What was the impact? What was the knowledge? What will the behavior be? What was claimed by the people that we touched? Moving straight into the next slide, which speaks to our next pillar, which is no to drinking and driving. We work with a number of metros across the country, and we work with them to create these targets and to reach these targets. And honestly, much of the time, our partners are as fervent as we are, if not more fervent, because we are helping them reach their targets. We are helping them reach their KPIs. And that is where the value, the mutual value in the relationship is, and that is why the relationship works so well. Next slide, please. And we are pleased with the results that we see, for example, in our rehabilitation shifting gears program, where we can see that there's a 95% non-reoffending number when we track people that went into the rehabilitation program, which means that the work that we are doing is working. Next slide, please. Straight on to sober pregnancies. When we look at the number of programs that we have, we work with UJ as one of our partners. Next slide, please. We worked with an organization called FAR, which has done an extensive amount of work over the years in the space of sober pregnancies. You can see that from a beneficiary point of view, reaching over 5,200 direct beneficiaries. The work that we did with the University of Johannesburg, which was a pilot program for us, because we see that prevention is better than cure, and that it's too late for us to get to mothers and to children once FASTI has occurred. We need to get to them before, and that's the only way that we're able to shift those numbers. We achieved a reach of over 12,000, and we're able to get a health charter aligned to the National Drug Master Plan out of that. And that is work that we are proud of with our partner. Next slide, please. And then finally, of course, when we look at our partnership with School of Hard Knocks in terms of the Gen Next Moms program, we can see the impact. 90% of moms plan not to drink during pregnancy post the program. 95% of them learned new information about FASTI. We've just done a piece of research which shows the limited views or knowledge around FASTI. It's not that, as somebody said, that people don't know about the harm. It's what to do to prevent it, to stop it. What is the action that needs to get taken? And then finally, next slide, taking you into the last video to close off, which is the work that we are doing in 2026. And with that, I thank you for your time.
Real change isn't just measured in numbers. It's seen in lives transformed. At aware.org, every action, partnership, and campaign reveals the people behind a safer, more responsible South Africa. 2026 marks a defining year of expansion, innovation, and collective impact, reaching over 200,000 individuals in 1 year. Through #NoToUnder18, we're nurturing resilient, self-aware youth. In 2026, our next-gen boys and girls programs will create safe spaces for young people to explore relationship skills, gender equality, and mental health support. Because the choices they make today will shape the South Africa of tomorrow. With our Don't Drink and Drive pilot metro program, we're bringing together education, awareness, and visible enforcement, showing what's possible when communities and justice systems work as one. A model built for national replication, because safer roads mean stronger communities. Through our Sober Pregnancies pillar, in 2026, we'll be shining a spotlight on healthy beginnings. Together with Sanka National, we'll reach over 20,000 women aged 12 to 45 across all 9 provinces through FASTI prevention and awareness. Through our Next Gen Women Mothers program, we're empowering mothers across Gauteng, Mpumalanga, and the Western Cape. Our target reach being 500 mothers and mothers-to-be. In 2026, our partnerships with leading universities are expanding FASTI research and interventions, helping us understand and prevent fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, one of South Africa's most preventable causes of lifelong harm. Inclusion of FASTI content within #NoToUnder18 to reach 100,000 learners, 10,000 parents, and 5,000 teachers. Real change happens through partnership. In 2026, our focus is on growth, built through stronger collaborations, evidence-based interventions, and a wider reach across all pillars. At the heart of it all, prevention, education, and behavioral change. From the Western and Eastern Cape Departments of Health to KwaZulu-Natal's Department of Social Development and the National Traders Association, our network keeps growing. Together, we're uniting government, business, and civil society to drive lasting, evidence-based change for generations to come. Behind every statistic is a story. Behind every story, a spark of hope. And when we shine the spotlight on that hope, we see the journey, the courage, the impact. Together, we are shaping a more responsible South Africa, one choice at a time. Real change isn't just measured.
I think I don't need to say anything else after all the clear messaging that you have put together in your presentation. I just have 2 issues with you. I'm worried when we are watching Skim Sam, so you are the reason that Mr. Mwagongwa had so many problems with that child. It's your fault. Okay, I see now, okay. And also I need to speak to some of the doctors. They've been saying to us that 1 glass of wine is okay during pregnancy. So I'm glad to hear the message quite clearly here to say that you can't have anything at all. Have your glass of milk and cookies and go to bed, okay? Live vicariously through other people. But thank you so much, Ms. Tulo. I think the work that away.org does is absolutely amazing and wonderful. And obviously, I think all of us in this room would want to partner with you on everything that you are doing. It's amazing, and I'm glad that the industry is also that supportive. We would like to see it replicated throughout as much as we want to be #1 spot in the province, but we are glad to see your footprint covers the entire country as well. Having said that, with the support of the industry as well, let me call on Ms. Angela Russell for our last presentation of the day to also just give us her bit in terms of the work that they do within the space, as also supported by the members within the industry. Thank you.
We are in afternoon. So good afternoon, everyone. Can you just try and get this mic out, and then And I can move away from the presentation as well. There we go. Super. No, that one. Yeah. So they have taught me how to use this now. So MEC Chairperson and Chief Director of the Gauteng Liquor Board, it's a pleasure to be here to share with you some of the insights and things that the Drinks Federation of South Africa does. Let me point to that side. No. Okay, so who is the Drinks Federation of South Africa? The Drinks Federation of South Africa is the unified voice of the alcohol industry. We represent the manufacturers of alcohol, and you can see on the screen, we are working very closely with the industry associations, the Beer Association, who are here, the South African Liquor Brand Association, as well as South African Wine, and we work very closely with aware.org and SAB Sharp. It's a bit slow. Oh, now I've gone back. So these are just to show the member organizations. So probably about 90% of the manufacturers of alcohol are represented on the Drinks Federation of South Africa. On our board sits our chairman, who is the head of South African Breweries. Our vice chairman is the head of Pernod Ricard, and we have all of the major players there. KWV and Edward Snell are also members, however, they don't currently have board positions. We also work very closely with retailers. We are busy starting a program with the retailers now on responsible trading and how do we tackle illicit and counterfeit alcohol within the retail space, whether on-premise and off-premise. So what do we do at the Drinks Federation of South Africa? We do research with Dr. Shamal, who is here today. We did research, which I'll show you now, on the illicit and counterfeit alcohol in South Africa. We also do market integrity. Within market integrity is responsible trading. So the behavioral change aspect is done through aware.org. We look at the trading aspect of the alcohol industry and how do we trade responsibly. And then also we do policy and stakeholder management. The one thing under market integrity that we do is the industry code of conduct for marketing, advertising, and promotion of alcohol. This is something that we oversee. It is monitored by the Advertising Regulatory Board as well as enforced by the Advertising Regulatory Board. So you'll see adverts being pulled, for example, or any complaints on alcohol advertising goes through to the ARB. So we have a very strong code, and I must say we've seen vast improvements in the alcohol advertising space over the last couple of years. Other things we do are training. Sorry, So last year we embarked on some training. It was happening in Gauteng, within the Eastern Cape and within KwaZulu-Natal, where we did training on underage drinking. This was specifically where we promote mandatory age verification. It's something we've spoken to DTIC about as well. And it's something that we believe that actually all people should be showing IDs when they're going into the liquor stores. So this is a way that is quite effective then happening in other countries where we can look at ensuring that we are not selling to underage children. I think the key thing here where Cleo asked me to talk around was around illicit and counterfeit alcohol. I'm not going to go into the definitions of illicit and counterfeit, but what I want to say is not all illicit alcohol is counterfeit, but all counterfeit alcohol is illicit. So I think that's something very important for me to mention. You can see the research that was conducted by Shamal and Euromonitor, conducted last year. And I think quite scary is that we are seeing a 55% increase in illicit alcohol in South Africa over the last 7 years. So what currently is 1 in 5 drinks is illicit. And again, I'm not going to say it's counterfeit because remember, it's a small portion of illicit alcohol is counterfeit. What we have seen happening since COVID-19 is that we have seen a shift from smuggling of alcohol across the borders or hijacked product into counterfeiting. So unfortunately, things have changed where during COVID, people were smuggling alcohol in. Now we are seeing an increase in counterfeit alcohol. Counterfeit alcohol presents a health risk to communities. We have seen, if you look over here, 67% of people will buy illicit product knowing that it's illicit because it is less expensive. We also know through this research that 49%, it was only a small sample of 701 people, but 49% of people know someone who has been harmed by drinking counterfeit alcohol. And then 29% of people know someone who has died. I think what's very important with illicit and counterfeit, it's not a compliance issue, as the MEC said. You are now seeing this working into organized crime, syndicates that are working in South Africa, and it is also a real health risk, especially when they are consuming counterfeit alcohol. So the industry sees this as quite a big problem. We spoke about sustainability of the industry. This market is a 25 billion rand market. We have seen fiscal loss of 16 billion rand. That 16 billion rand could have been used for health, for education, for community building. However, it's gone into criminals' hands. So what have we done as an industry as a response to this? And I think we've said it is not just government's responsibility, it's not just law enforcement's responsibility, it's not just the liquor board's responsibility, it's everybody's responsibility to work to counter illicit and counterfeit alcohol and promote responsible trade. So we have started a responsible trade task force. It is not fully operational yet. But the Responsible Trade Task Force is to work across government, private sector, various associations to see how can we work together to better support the eradication of illicit and counterfeit alcohol in the country. So we have already met, for example, with the Deputy Minister of Police. We've already met with the Minister and Deputy Minister of Justice. We've already met with the Deputy Minister of DTIC to introduce this program to them, to gain their support and show that as an industry we are very serious in tackling this problem together. The Responsible Trade Task Force doesn't only look at the sale of illicit and counterfeit alcohol, but also looks at how do we promote responsible trading, not selling to underage children, and then for people to not trade outside of their trading hours. These are things that are legally binding anyway. They should be doing it anyway because it's part of the law. But unfortunately, you have those rogue players who do then, sell to underage, unfortunately, sell outside of trading hours, and sell illicit and counterfeit alcohol. With illicit and counterfeit alcohol, as I said, people will buy it, irrespective of knowing that it could be harmful to them, because the price is so, it's more affordable. So what is driving the growth of illicit and counterfeit alcohol in the country is affordability. Illicit alcohol is between 30 to 70% less expensive than normal, I'm going to say legitimate alcohol. And on average, you're looking at about 37% less expensive. So affordability is one of the reasons why people are consuming it. Accessibility is another one. So illicit alcohol is not something that you find in a tavern, in a back alley, it's found in formal retail as well. So you're seeing this actually penetrate into formal retail as well as then into informal markets as well. So it's more accessible across channels and locations. Also, the scope of operations you are seeing now are becoming very sophisticated. These are criminal syndicates. They have manufacturing facilities that pop up. It's removed, it pops up somewhere else. It's not just a back door, back of the house operation anymore. They have printing machines, they have bottling machines. It is becoming exceptionally sophisticated. And then I want to say here, weak enforcement and consequences. And we know that the capacity is constrained. Within the liquor board alone, looking at the number of inspectors you have in Gauteng, looking at the police that are working with this, we understand that there is capacity constraints, as well as then weak penalties. So we see these guys being busted, they get a 5,000 Rand fine, they back on it, they pay their 5,000 Rand fine, and off they are selling illicit alcohol again. So these are things that we need to look at closely and see how do we effect change to take place to assist the cause. I feel very disjointed pointing this, okay. So we are saying that when we work together, it works. So steady action leaves illicit and counterfeit alcohol with nowhere to hide. So we need to work together to make this actually work. It's not something that the Liquor Board can do on their own. It's not something that the Department of Justice can do on their own, or the police department. Sorry. So from the Responsible Trade Task Force, showing that we are taking it seriously, we have already employed 2 people. So Dirk is with us today. Dirk is an attorney, and he's also a former Special Investigating Unit member. And we have Letitia. I think many of you know Letitia Davids from Salba. She's an industry expert that is from counterfeit and illicit alcohol. So these are our 2 dedicated team members who are going to be working and coordinating this Responsible Trade Task Force that we have. Did I go back one? Okay. So what we say is when we equip, it works. Knowing what to look for and how to respond makes illicit and counterfeit alcohol easier to confront. So one of the key things we do is training. We do training of, border control, police officers, liquor authorities, retailers themselves are asking for us to say how do their staff members, find what is illicit alcohol, counterfeit alcohol. So we do a lot of training. But what we are doing this year is we are in the process of developing an app. This app, if I can make it move, this app is going to go to the sales force, at this moment, to the sales force of the manufacturers. You see the breadth of manufacturers that we have. The sales forces will get this application. They are in the stores, in the restaurants, in the nightclubs on a daily basis. So what they can do is then go and report suspected underage sales, suspected trading outside of trading hours, and suspected illicit or counterfeit alcohol. This information will then come into a central repository. It allows us to collect the data. It allows us to look at mapping of where problem areas are across the country. And once this information is sent through to us, we then send a third party out to actually go and investigate. So it could be like a mystery shopper going into a store, seeing is there actually illicit alcohol, are they selling to underage, are they trading outside of trading hours. Once this is confirmed, this information is then passed over to the relevant authority. So we actually tested this last year with Clio. We did a pilot in Gauteng to see how this actually worked. We learned from this. We've, implementing changes to the program. But we're sharing this information with the likes of Mr. Shamangu, who can then go and do the necessary work with the police, SAPS and SARS. We're busy signing the MOU, as I said, currently with the Deputy Minister of Police. So we really believe that shared visibility becomes stronger action against illicit and counterfeit alcohol. So this is a way, as an industry, we are putting extra foot soldiers out there because we know that there is not necessarily sufficient capacity within the liquor inspectors, within the SAPs. We are passing through information that we have verified that there is suspected activity. We are not enforcers. We are here to collect data, to data share with people so we can have better action taking place. So this is where the collaboration comes in. So collective action becomes real progress, as we work together across the industry. One example I will share with you that we got information of a manufacturer who's manufacturing 100 mils potable spirits. 100 mil potable spirit is not permissible under the regulations. So it's an illegal format that's in many, many stores. So we then reported the manufacturer through to the NRCS, which is part of the DTIC, for them then to go and do the necessary work with this manufacturer who is continuing to supply 100 ml variants out in the market. So what is needed to tackle illicit alcohol? So alcohol illicit alcohol is a serious crime, and we would like it to be taken as a serious crime within the country. It is a health risk, it's an economic crime, and it contains elements of organized crime as well. So, oops, I've gone too far back. So what we are looking for is clear definitions of what illicit alcohol is. So we've presented information to the Department of Trade and Industry for updating of regulations on what is counterfeit alcohol, how should it be tackled, closing legislative gaps that are there. We've given a list of various regulations to the Minister of Justice and Deputy Minister of Justice, so they can look at all of the various legislation that works together, Counterfeit Act, all the various legislation, not just liquor acts that go with it as well. And we want, recognition of full scope of the criminal process. Sorry. So the things we've asked from that we believe needs to happen collectively is legal clarity. We've spoken to DTIC around this. Prosecutions, we've spoken to the Department of Justice. A 5,000 Rand slap on the hand is not good enough. You can't have these perpetrators who potentially are selling counterfeit alcohol that can have a serious impact on someone's health, going back and doing the same thing again. And stronger, consistent penalties across that. The one area that we will, we do look for with the liquor boards and, the Gauteng region and all the provinces is how do we suspend and revoke liquor licenses? Because what we see is these guys go back and back and back out into the market, but we are not seeing suspension of these licenses and revoking of these licenses. As an industry, we do not want to work with the people who are disobeying the law. We would like to encourage responsible trading, in the communities out there. So this is really an ask on how do we collectively look at revoking liquor licenses, for those who are working in the counterfeit and illicit space. So that really is, in short, what we are busy doing. We should be going into action with reporting within the next 3 months. So you'll see then activity coming through in the next 3 months. We will be engaging with Mr. Shabangu when we get feedback through the portal. So thank you very much for that. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Ms. Russell. I think it's actually wonderful that we've got the chairperson and the deputy chairperson of the board. That last slide there where we need to suspend and revoke licenses, we normally just engage weekly, Thursdays and Fridays, where we have many little fights in terms of who are we suspending, what license are we revoking, obviously based on the contravention against the Gauteng Liquor Act. So we are thankful for the work that they do, but I think the message is that we need to enhance that particular element so that we make sure we get rid of the rotten potatoes within the industry itself, and we do heed that message and we take it upon. We will continue to work with you. It's a pity Letitia is not here today. We met Derek also earlier in the year, but we will continue, and we appreciate the partnership that we would have received across the years, also with training our inspectors. You spoke about the training that you conducted. We will continue to engage further. Let me call the enforcer in the room, Mr. Shabangu, who we always say is very strict. So for us to make sure that we are able to measure the impact that we will be seeing across these pillars and this forum, we would want a heavy-handed enforcer. Mr. Shabangu, please come and introduce the pillars, and we're almost at the end of the program, so just bear with us a little bit.
I almost clapped as well. Good afternoon, MEC, the chairperson of the board, captain of the industry, colleagues and associations and our guests. Mine is not going to be a long one. And I know whenever I stand up or take the podium, people expect to be lest, if not chastised. I think it comes with the platform. I'm trying at least to say to the MEC that what you are paying me, I ensure that I deliver. So it is me responding to a call. But again, it is a call that I believe all of us in one way or the other are impacted by, alcohol abuse, by illicit liquor trade and so forth. As a matter of fact, I have a younger brother basically who's got other health conditions, but is a victim, of course, he's drinking illicit liquor. And it's a point where I can't do anything, but I feel what then becomes my purpose if I can't even help people within my family. I buried actually a friend in February who was close friends to my brother because of illicit liquor. I buried my uncle 2 years ago because of alcohol abuse. So it's a matter that comes pretty close to my heart. I live with this. I grew up in the East End, and I do believe that we are here because at some point in our lives, we are impacted. Don't wait until it happens to your loved one, because that is the problem with our citizenry. If it does not affect your loved one, there's no need to do that. The former police commissioner of the province, Commissioner Mawela, used to say, we can't be policing by invitation. Equally, let's not become partners by invitation, because we have a more task that lies ahead of us. After all is said and done, the establishment of this forum would be just a talk shop that government is notoriously known for. All you do, you talk and no action. The MEC said, outcome, not activities, become the measure of impact and success of this. That is why then we are going to play this video. Mine is very, very simple and short today, unlike any other day. Mine is to introduce a video that is going to touch more in detail on these pillars, because these are pillars that are going to drive our efforts. These are pillars that are going to speak sense into why we even gather today. These are pillars that to speak to the commitment that we give to ourselves. Without further ado, colleagues, please press play. Thank you so much.
Next time we'll add such a lovely voiceover, ne? Budget. But thank you so much. Thank you so much to all the partners that are listed here. As the MEC said, the door remains open. And we are hoping by the time we actually do the working session for the forum in the next quarter that we are able to have brought in more partners to assist us in the work that we do. Without any further ado, just the last part of our program, the chairperson of the Gauteng Liquor Board, Ms. Tobile Mangaman, to do the closing remarks and the vote of thanks for us, please.
Thank you, Chief Director. Honorable MEC, the captains of the industry here present, colleagues, thank you so much, Chief Director, for this initiative. It's actually long overdue. MEC, if you know my stance about the liquor and the liquor industry and balancing what you delved on, balancing the economy and also the adverse impact of liquor and our role as the Gauteng Liquor Board. And just to answer you, Ms. Russell, I know I'm not very popular with the LTA because of the number of licenses that we have refused in the past 3 years during our tenure. Reason being non-compliance with the Liquor Act. So we are very swift when it comes to enforcing compliance without any prejudice. So we do that. We do that perfectly. And I'm so comforted by the role of aware.org together with DFSA, the partnership is such a necessity with the Gauteng Liquor Board because you are the carriers of the prescriptive data that we need. We are in the process actually of amending the Liquor Act, and you carry that data that we need in order to make imports to the amendments of the Liquor Act. And we are two sides of the same coin because ours is to ensure a responsible sale of liquor. And we certainly need people like yourselves to do that. And I'm sure as we go along interacting, we will make sure that Gauteng is #1 province when it comes to safety, responsibility, but also the contribution that the industry has in the liquor. And having said that, I just want to say thank you to everyone. And I do trust that going forward, we'll have that involvement of like SIU, because it has always been my conviction that, and I said it to the MEC on the first meeting that we had with the MEC, that it is in my view that the Liquor Board is misplaced within the economic development. And the reason why I say so, it is because of the adverse impact of liquor in the society and the ability to enforce as the Liquor Board. You know, when you say a board sounds so corporate, it sounds so soft. But if you say that we are a regulatory authority and you term us that way and you put us under, in the absence of the Department of Justice in Gauteng, under law enforcement, then this department, this unit, it begins to have teeth that will bite. We all know of the adverse impacts of liquor, and government must govern. That's what I always say, MEC, that in as much as we are to generate revenue, and I'm actually, sitting there and I'm thinking to myself that this is an industry that generates about 25 billion rands. Yet, as the department, we only generating the revenue that we make is 75 million rand. There's a huge disconnect. You know, so are we making the impact? Are we usurping the benefits that we should out of this? I am not sure. And maybe that's why I'm convicted that this unit belongs to the Department of Safety. And also ensuring compliance, because you have so much non-compliance. And what you said, that there is no revocation. Actually, there is revocation of liquor licenses, but for some reason, people go back and they transgress and they do the same. So that is why I firmly believe that at some stage, Gauteng will have to think about this unit and place it where it belongs. That as the province, you know, where do we envisage our future to be? How do we see ourselves as the province of Gauteng? Is it profit over everything, or do we balance? And if we're to balance, I honestly believe that at some stage. And also, MEC, maybe just to change, I've been advocating for that we change from being a liquor board to a liquor regulatory authority whilst we are in the department. I think that will give us a better teeth to grind on the transgressors. And having said so, thank you so much, MEC, and thank you so much, Chief Director, and everybody here present. And I look forward to a more meaningful and impactful interactions going forward.
Chairperson, we continue to do the work regardless of where we are placed at the moment, so we will continue to do that. Let me also just generally thank the team from the Gauteng Liquor Board that assisted with putting this forum together. We sincerely appreciate you from all across the Customer Relation Management Unit, from Inspectorate and Registration and Licensing, and the colleagues at the Gauteng Department of Economic Development, from the colleagues that assisted us with the comms and marketing elements of the forum itself, from the MEC's office for the wonderful support that we will continue to endure over the implementation of the work that we do, to the various stakeholders, to Away.org, SABA, SAB, Beer Association of South Africa, Diageo, Heineken, Drinks Federations of South Africa, the liquor associations that are in the room, the implementing partners of the various programs, and from the Department of Education, Department of Social Development, and the Department of Health in absentia as well, to law enforcement in general. We would like to thank you so much for the contribution that you have made towards the liquor industry, and in an attempt to reduce the harm, let's continue to work together. We will share the date of the next forum session, where we will have a more interactive session. With that said, please have a wonderful afternoon and enjoy the rest of your week. Be safe, let's drink responsibly. Those that are pregnant, no glass of wine. Thank you. Lunch is served.